Shabbat Shalom. This week we begin something new. We begin a new book of the Torah, one of the 5 Chumashim, the 5 books of Moses, the book of Numbers, Sefer Bamidbar. And the way we refer to this book in English and Hebrew couldn't be more different. In Hebrew, Bamidbar means in the wilderness. It's referring to one of the first words of the book, one of the first words of significance, or the unique words of the book, that this is taking place Bamidbar Sinai, that God is speaking to Moses, in the wilderness of Sinai. And the sages teach that this concept of wilderness is actually a very profound concept, that this is where the Torah was given, and it was given for a reason. And as the Midrash says, that there were 3 elements with which the Torah was presented to Israel. It was given with fire, it was given with water, and it was given in the wilderness. And the Midrash says that there's a lesson to be learned from these 3 elements, that just as fire is free and water is free and the wilderness is free and accessible to all, so too the Torah needs to be free and accessible to all. It's not private property to be owned or possessed by a ruling class or an educated class or whatever it might be, but everyone has a portion in the Torah, and that's a message that we carry through to Shavuot. When we invite everyone to come learn with us, to come study Torah with us, it's there for everyone. Just like the wilderness is not private property, but rather open to all, so too, come and take your portion in the Torah. Come and wander in the paths of wisdom that is our Torah. And in English, this book is referred to not as the book of the wilderness, but as the book of Numbers. And that's a reference to the census that takes place in the very beginning of the book, a census of the entire people, of the entire nation, and then a separate census of the Levites. And I want to focus for a moment on this latter census of the Levites. They had a very specific and important role, and that was to transport the tabernacle, to take that holiest space from one place to another as the children of Israel would travel. And every part of the tribe, every one of Levi, who was one of the sons of Jacob, and now his children, now the next generation, are being divided by their families, and each family being given a responsibility. And we read of the responsibilities, and we read of the numbers, and it tells us the responsibilities of Gershon. It's 3 children, Gershon, Kehat, and Merari. And so Gershon, the responsibilities of Gershon was, amongst other things, to take the curtains that surrounded the tabernacle, that enclosed the tabernacle. That was their responsibility, and they were 7,500 people strong. That was their numbers. And then Kehat had a great responsibility, perhaps the greatest of all, which was of transporting the Holy Ark. And they were 8,600 people strong. And then we read of Merari, who were responsible for carrying the wooden planks amongst other items, and they were 6,200 people strong. And then the Torah gives us a bit of a summation, a bit of a reflection at the end, and it says, altogether, these families of Gershon, Kehat, and Merari numbered 22,000. And the question that we ask is, why is the Torah giving us the sum of these numbers? After all, I can do the addition myself. It's not very complicated. I could take out a calculator, I could do it on paper, or do it even in my head. It doesn't matter. These are 3 numbers that the Torah gave us, and then it gives us the total number. Why is it giving us the total? I know what the total is. I can do that work on my own. And one answer that I saw given in the name of one of the great contemporary teachers in Israel, Rav Bitterman. And the answer is that the Torah gives us the sum total to teach that each was important, that we shouldn't think of it as being divided into 3 different categories, and based on their roles, they're ranked in terms of level of importance, but rather the entire family came together to share in the level of importance. That it wasn't that God looked at the family of Kehat and said, you are the ones responsible for carrying the Holy Ark, and therefore you are the most precious, the most special. That's not it at all. Because the planks needed to be carried as well, and the curtain needed to be carried as well, and all of the other elements that made the tabernacle, that made this place so special and so holy, all of those are equally important. Everyone has a role in contributing to the holy and contributing to the sacred. I thought of that this week as our community was very fortunate, was very blessed to host a group of survivors from Kibbutz Be'eri. It was an extraordinary program that we had for university and CJEP students and staff members as well. And we had a group of IDF officers who joined us. Also, they had a few moments to spare in their busy itinerary, but it was important for them to come in and hear the testimony of survivors of the Be'eri massacre, what happened on October 7th. And we heard 4 different stories, 4 different perspectives of what they were doing in that moment, what their thought processes were, and what the messages that they're taking from those moments are. And then the students and adults as well, that all had a chance to interact, all had a chance to engage with these extraordinary survivors. And I thought, what an extraordinary role it must be for these survivors who didn't sign up for this. They didn't want this. This is something that was brought upon them. And now that they have survived, now that they have seen the worst that humanity has to offer, they have a story to tell. And they have to tell that story. They have to make sure that the truth is expressed, that people know what happened, people remember what happened, people are aware of the evil that the world is confronting right now and that Israel has been confronting since its inception and even before that. And we too, who are living thousands of miles away, but also so deeply connected, we have a role as well, which is no less important, which is to listen to these stories, which is to internalize them, which is to advocate for Israel, to advocate for the understanding that in life versus death, life must always emerge on top, that the values of embracing coexistence are so central to who we are embracing life and light and never losing sight of what makes us unique as a people and what makes society worth living in terms of the values that it must embrace and the values that it must reject as well, which are those values that we must reject are the values that led to the attacks on October 7th. Everyone has a role. That's a message of the Torah, is that whether one has been selected to carry the holiest of objects and to tell the most precious of stories of survival and embracing life and resilience, or whether one is listening and offering a supporting role. Each of those people, each of those individuals is equally precious in ensuring that these values and these stories remain a central focus for us as we forge a path forward, as we embrace our survivors, offer support to one another, and never stop working to build a better world. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom.